All right. Welcome, everyone. This is a meeting for the Education Committee. And as we have quorum, I will call this meeting to order. Thank you all for making it. Please allow me to introduce the members on the Committee of Education. Present today, we have on my right, Representative Dinita Yangtemai. And on my left, we have Representative Donald Manglonia. Absent today, okay, and just arriving here on my left is Representative Ed Probst. Welcome, sir. Nice haircut, looking sharp. Absent today and excused is Representative Sheila Babauta, as she is off island. And also absent is Representative Ralph Yummel. He might join us later. And present with us today are LB staff that helps us run the show. Thank you so much. We have legal counsel Brendan Layard. IT and streaming, we have Jonathan Diaz today. For our Sergeant at Arms, we have Mr. Pete Toai and Will Brandon Uggan. And for our legislative assistant, we have Cameron Nicholas. And in the back, taking notes, we have Miss Malia Johnson. Thank you all. And as we start our day on our agenda, I'd like to have a motion to adopt our agenda. Any motions to adopt? And it's been seconded. All right. All those in favor to adopt the agenda, please say aye. All those against it say nay. And the ayes have it. The agenda is adopted. Next on the agenda is the adoption of minutes. You've been shared for the last 2 months of meetings, March 18th and April 6th were the last 2 meetings we had. Have you had a chance to review those meeting minutes? If there are not any changes, can I get a motion to adopt the last 2 months meeting minutes? Go ahead and take some time to review. Thank you. Awesome. All right, I have a motion to adopt the minutes for both the last 2 months. Any second? Got a second, so it has been motioned and seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those against say nay. And the ayes have it. The motion to adopt minutes has been adopted. Next up is the public comment section. Is there anyone in the audience today that would like to give public comments? All right, we have lots of people in the audience today. For those of you who are online, we have our PSS family here today who are going to be giving us updates. We have a lot of PSS members in the audience, so we will let the commissioner and his team go ahead and give those updates. So, well, Brendan, will you please go ahead and bring them in? Or Sergeant Toai? Thank you, Sergeant Agun. And if we can welcome the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Alfred Adda, along with any of the team members he would like to bring up to the floor today, we welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us up here at the floor in your house. So we were very, very excited to hear that you were able to meet with us today. I know that the budget hearings are coming up, and so we'll be meeting on that topic at a later date. But for today, we'd love to hear any of the updates that you'd like to share with us about Hopwood, um, about any of the FEMA projects and the funding timelines that might be popping up, as we know that that time is coming. We've also had questions from constituents about bus stops in areas. And so any updates you can give on those topics, we would love to hear, especially with graduations coming up just next week, and any summer programs as well that you'd like to share. And so, with that said, we welcome you to the House of Representatives, and we look forward to all the things you will share. So, Commissioner Ada, please feel free to do any introductions, introduce your team, and share whatever presentation you'd like to share. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman Leila Staffler. Good afternoon, Congresswoman um, Yang Tamay. Good afternoon, Congressman Ed Probst. Good afternoon, Representative Donald Manglonia. Today, I have with me our key management team. The purpose of the key management team, they're all the directors of key management, a central office that provides services for all the schools. Um, They also help me make decisions in times, especially throughout the pandemic and with COVID 19. With that said, I like to begin by introducing myself. I am Alfred Ada, Commissioner of Education. And what I want to share before I introduce, I just want to share with you what I've given you guys ahead of time, which is the Students First newsletter. And this is published every month. Um, Please, I want you to know I try not to make it all about me, and it's all about the students. So, for the most part, it's the students and all the infrastructure or student competitions, highlighting mostly our students. So, we try to make it students first. So, I like to begin by going down the line. We'll begin with to my left, your right. So go ahead and introduce yourself, please, Miss Dr. Bonnie. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Pangilinan, Senior Director for Student and Support Services.
Hafaday Tiro, good afternoon. Jackie Kirgwa, Senior Director for Curriculum and Instruction.
Good afternoon, Tim Thornburg, Federal Programs Officer.
Half a day, Eric Mogofnia, Associate Commissioner for Admin Services.
Greetings. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Rizalina Liwag. She's the Senior Director for Accountability Research and Evaluation. My name is Marian Tidela.
So behind me are the rest of the directors from central office. Um, with that said, I would like to make an announcement to inform you guys, giving you an up-to-date information regarding PSS. Tomorrow we will be doing a tsunami drill. Tsunami drill will be conducted at the Priority 1 schools. I resorted to the shoreline schools, but it's considered technical term is Priority 1. And these are the schools that are right by the shore, which is FMS, Hubwood Middle School, and GTC. I gave a copy of the schools to prepare for tsunami um, to our chairwoman to share with the education committee on how important this is for us and for our community. With that said, are there any questions so far regarding any of the updates before I move into our first item, which is the budget? So I would like. Are there questions? Are we? Are we? It's okay.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. So to open up our conversation today, our discussion, I have our senior director, Miss Jackie Kirugua, who is in charge of the Office of the Curriculum and Instruction. After we passed the budget, or we submitted our budget to a legislature, we went back and we realized what we need. We went back and reflected on what we should have and could have done more. But here's our chance to share with you how important and why we're trying to uphold the law of and preserving indigenous-based education. With indigenous-based education is the language, which is the Chamorro and the Refalawash um, language. So with that, um, I'm going to yield to Miss Jackie, and she can uh, tell us more in depth of the challenges of putting together or moving forward with the immersion program that we currently have in place of our indigenous language. So, Ms. Jackie, please proceed.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's great to be here, as always, speaking and reflecting the needs of our children throughout all our 20 schools, including Rhoda Tinian. I want to start out first by sharing what goal number 1 is that we have under strategic performance management. And that starts out by saying that each student will receive equitable, rigorous, relevant, evidence-based instruction and support so that they can meet their academic, social and emotional, and their overall well-being. With this goal, PSS continues to strive to listen carefully and deeply with our students and our teachers, as well as our leaders across. And instruction plays a major part in a decision that we have to make across the kind of supports and the kind of learning experiences we need to give our children every day. So one of the updates with this goal is that we have initiated quite a number of programs to ensure that we are keeping ourselves true to the imperatives of the whole child. And one that our commissioner mentioned is the Immersion program. More and more, we are struggling with not just challenges of social emotional, but at the same time, our students also are searching within to know who they really are. The need for their own identity and their sense of belonging, the sense of care, and everything else that really is laid out in the whole child imperative. So for this year, all elementary schools implemented the immersion program at the kinder level, with the exception of Cagman Elementary, since Cagman Elementary have implemented this a couple of years ago, at least 3 or maybe even longer, 4 years. And that program continues to grow under the leadership of Dr. Ignacia de Mapan, who is currently in the House, and continues to work and provide that support for our children. The immersion program at the other elementary schools, starting at kinder, will continue to grow in bringing Chamorro and Carolinian studies across, including the language and culture, all that it entails under our standards approved by the board. So the need to hire more teachers to ensure that there is sustainability, at least for kinder to 3. And then moving forward, we hope to really bring a lot more support, but that's one of our targets. What has happened with our immersion teachers and our Chamorro and Carolinian language heritage studies this year is we were fortunate enough to bring them into one of the programs that University of Guam offers so that they will obtain an undergraduate studies. So currently we're monitoring that. We have about 18 of our teachers who will receive that by August of their degree by August of 22, and some by no later than December of 2022. So we're excited about that. The immersion teachers will continue to need a lot of professional development supports, as well as development of our own language and cultural materials, since we are also addressing what we call culturally and linguistically responsive needs for our students. So we're hoping to really build that need. That is our desire, and our goal is to provide that continued support. Another exciting update that we have is we have brought project-based learning, which is a different learning experiences for our students, and gives our what this gives to our students is that it gives them a voice to demonstrate and show their passion and their interests, their asset in what they can do to respond to a problem or to an interest that they have in learning more and providing some innovative solutions. And that now is currently being implemented, not just at the elementary, but even middle school and high school. And we have seen a lot of motivation and encouragement that our students are excited to see a lot more. I was just in Rhoda last week, and the students have demonstrated outstanding thinking about different interests and problems that they see and what solutions they can offer. Another one is the career pathways that already is being implemented in some of our schools. And we hope that by next school year, uh, at least in our high schools, they will begin implementing one of those career pathways as identified or recommended. And those pathways are construction, nursing assistant, teacher academy, entrepreneurship, and hospitality and tourism. Exciting events or resources that hopefully would need some more supports will be the digital curriculum with the physical copies, at least for our lower elementary students. And that's the curriculum that is usually that would usually go through the board for approval, and then procurement of those resources with the professional development that will be provided for teachers and our instructional leaders. The summer program that we are offering this year, this summer, will begin June 27 to July 29. That's 5 weeks of intensive summer program that brings several things to our community, to our students, to our families as well, and our schools as a whole. Is addressing learning loss or unfinished learning as a result of the COVID, which really gives our students extended learning opportunity through the summer program, extended summer program, enrichment activities, career and technical education learning based on what the schools are designing their summer program to be, credit recovery, career pathways, and this brings some collaboration across NMC, NMTI, and even our Guam Marianas Training Institute for our nursing students. We also have worked closely with ITDE under the leadership of Dr. Bobby, bringing also our middle school students the opportunity to take online courses that is bringing an integrated approach across learning with our students in the various content areas. And the registration is ongoing. And lastly, the transitions from children entering kindergarten, or we call them the rising kinder, who may have not had any early childhood background. And we do need to transition these kids, as well as those maybe who are recommended by schools. So quite a number of things. And the biggest piece that I want to really share also is the high dosage tutor, which allows our schools to have students, young students, or anyone in the community who have just graduated from high school, are currently enrolled in maybe a post-secondary institution like our NMC, and are in the community who are willing to become tutors during the summer, and peer tutors as well. These are our kids who are still in high school and are willing to reach out to their peers and be a support in any of the content areas that they see their strength or their asset in. So it's a lot, and we're excited about this. And of course, what we really are looking at is the area that we need a lot more support is our immersion program and hiring, bringing in more people, our own, to teach our language and our culture. So I think those are a couple of the big things, Commissioner, and everyone. Should you have any question, I'm here to respond to.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Ms. Jackie. I recognize Representative Minglenia.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Kirigua, for that. The question that I have is in regards to the immersion program that you brought up, and I guess what I want to figure out is what are some of the biggest challenges in getting individuals to enter this. How do I say this? I guess trying to get teachers on board to teach this program. Is it an issue in trying to get interested individuals? Is it more of an issue on trying to get them the degree that they need through UOG? What are some of the challenges, and how can we attract more teachers to enter the immersion program?
Thank you, Congressman Donald, for asking that question. I think almost all that we have noticed and observation is really getting that interest in from our own community, because we have done also professional service contract in the past, and luring people or having the interest to come in and be a part, and just to be able to really connect with teaching and learning is a struggle. So what do we need to do? I believe our HR department and as well as our program directors have already made adjustments with the approval of the board in looking at the various levels of, people coming into the schools to teach. And so there's really no barrier at this time if it is looking at the public school system, because this is very different, unlike all other content areas. But as we bring them in, we provide the professional development, the training that we need to give them, at least to have the background of how do you, manage a classroom, student behavior, instructional time, the very essentials that a person or persons who are interested in coming in, we can take care of that, take care of them so that they stay within our system, within our schools. So we've been really reaching out to several, even retirees, if they're interested. But we're getting people, but not to the degree that we hope we can get them.
But as far as them having to get a degree from UOG, those can be covered by whatever grants or PSS offers.
I would like to say that for now, maybe that can be covered, but I'm going to turn to Mr. Tim or maybe even Commissioner to respond to, once teachers come to that level of obtaining a degree, such as an undergraduate study degree for CCLHS, for example, what happens next? So,
Yeah, sure. At the undergraduate level, you've got the CNMI scholarship, you've got a whole raft of scholarship, you've got the Pell Grants, which are up to about $6,000 a year now. So there's more than enough to pay for an undergraduate degree, particularly if they start at NMC for the first 2 years. And then the other piece is we do have a program, the Teach Grant, that will actually provide 6,000 per year for 2 years for teachers to get a master's degree. And as long as they come back and teach for 2 years, for the 2 years of the grant, it's a grant. If they choose not to come back, it automatically converts into a loan at 6%, which is kind of high, but that's kind of the kicker to make certain that once you start the program, you finish the program. Thank you.
And lastly, on that, is PSS offering any incentives to those that want to enter this field, particularly CCLHS?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we do offer an incentive for hard to fill positions. So yes, there is an incentive for that.
But is there an additional incentive for CCLHS?
It would be an additional incentive for any hard to fill position, whether it's CCLHS or special education.
So, Mr. Congressman Mangalonia, I just want to make sure I say the right name because the last time I said Mendiola. But I just want yeah, the challenge that we're really face is finding personnel that wants to teach Chamorro and Carolinian. Right now, the way the post-secondary is set up is they had the elementary education or a subject concentrated um, for teaching. But because it's fairly new and we now have University of Guam helping our Chamorro and Refaloas instructors getting their college degree, the incentive is that they start right now as instructor level, but then they move up to highly qualified teachers status. And I'm going to yield to our human resource director, Ms. Lucrecia, because she's the one that's really faced with a lot of the questions from not just our teachers, but also our principals and even the community at large about why it's such a struggle to get local native tongue speakers to come in and teach. Let's go ahead, Ms. I'd like to introduce our Human Resource Director, Ms. Lucrecia DeLonguerero.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the Education Committee. So to add on to the recruitment process of the CCLHS or Immersion program for both Chamorro and Carolinian, about 2018, there was an approval that went through, which also provided an alternative certification route, which included if they're unable to pass the Chamorro or Carolinian content knowledge test, there is an alternative certification route where our current instructors who are not certified would have to provide what's called a portfolio for all. For example, if somebody had worked in the system for 10 years and are still struggling to pass the content knowledge test, they would create a portfolio which would go to a panel under the certification and licensure office under the board, which will review if they meet all of those requirements and will allow them, if they meet those requirements, to receive an alternative certification as an instructor 1, 2, or 3. In addition to that, as Ms. Jackie had mentioned, with the 18 that are currently enrolled through the UOG program, in the event they do graduate, and we hopefully with the support of the request to the 2023 budget request, where the program is requesting for an additional 20 FTEs, hopefully if supported through the budget, that we will be able to restructure those instructor positions and reclassify them to a highly qualified classroom teacher. So that's also kind of like an incentive. It will bring up their salary and pay once they obtain their degree to the university. So that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I yield for now, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Manglonia. If I may piggyback on that question, when you said 20 additional FTEs, what grade levels would that be? Are you expanding up from kinder or?
Okay, in response to that, basically right now it's for elementary and middle school. That's what was added on into the budget request.
That's for the immersion program only
And CCLHS.
and CCLHS. Okay. How many would be for immersion specifically?
So the total is 20. Off the top of my head, I don't have the actual amount for the two separate ones, but I can share that with you once I pull it up.
Okay. Just thinking about the immersion programs, how when expanding into the next grade level, I think up to third grade is the plan, right? Okay. Just curious. Thank you. I guess, were there any other questions from panel members, from the committee members? Okay, Representative Yang Tamai.
Someone just texted me asking if there is a director for the Carolinian program or bilingual at Refalawash. Someone from the Refalawash or Carolinian community.
Currently, the board, currently what we have right now in our organizational chart is one program director for both Chamorro and Refalawash. So with that, we also have one curriculum writer for Refalawash, and the other one is for Chamorro. They work together. We have moved away from having, just one program per each, but a collaborative approach that came from also a recommendation from our Refalawash teachers across.
So that's a Refalawash, the program writer.
Curriculum writer, yes.
Curriculum, yes.
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 Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Yang Tamai. All right, moving on. Perhaps you can tell us some updates about Hopwood. Hopwood has been running on a double session, as we know, has been running on a double session for a long time. And we know that the Board of Education did vote to keep it on their current campus location. This legislature did put into the budget law that the PSS would do a feasibility study, but that has not happened. There's been a different plan. So perhaps you can tell us what's going on with that. What were the findings for whatever study that you did do? And how did the board come to that final decision that many people are happy about? Because the decision to stay was largely based on public sentiment from what I hear. But we also wondered what kind of data was used to make that final choice. Yes, so from there, we'd love to hear from the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. If I may, I'd like to just give you briefly about Hopwood. A decision is finally made. Yes. Between the question was whether we're going to stay at the current site, which is called Chalampio, or to move to Asperdido. And so the decision was made on, what was that? March 25th, when the board finally decide to stay. And I'm going to yield to our Associate Commissioner for Administrative Services, who is also very involved with not just Hopwood, but also FEMA projects. So I noticed that I made a list. You said Hopwood, FEMA, the bus stop, and graduation. So he's going to talk about Hopwood and along with the FEMA projects. So Mr. Eric Magofnia, please.
Thank you.
Off a day again, Chairwoman and committee members. So yes, you're right. The board didn't make a decision. The House did appropriate funds for a feasibility study. However, we were fortunate enough to work with the Public Assistance Office to get A&E service, and also with the help of the IRP, which is the Infrastructure Recovery Program. They were also able to assist by helping us do an assessment of the three properties. So there were three properties. One is the original Hopwood, where it's at now. The second one was the proposed As Perdido, where the DLNR area is. And then number three is the Asgono area, where the old airfield used to be. So a campus relocation study for Hopwood Middle School was conducted by Helios Engineering Group along with their subcontractors, Hofschneider Engineering and Guma Architects. In this study, the team rated each site based on a multiple criteria, such as socioeconomics, general population, utilities and infrastructure, construction impacts, and several more categories. And in the end, Asgono was ranked number one, Chalampia was ranked number two, and Asperdido was ranked number three. I can share the actual report with this body if it wants to. And then with the IRP office, their team of biologists also did site visits and gave their professional opinion on the three locations. For Chalanpia, rebuilding at this site would require little to no land clearing and would avoid any TE species as there are no current NIRW in this area. NIRW is the nightingale reed warbler. Yes, I always get that. That's a tongue twister. And then for Asgono, surveys were done. Sorry. Surveys were done in this area by Micronesian Environmental Services. And there is the nightingale reed warbler at this site. So this site should be considered a critical habitat for the reed warbler, and most of the land clearing is already done, and the IRP could perform surveys to obtain permitting. For Asperdido, this site should be considered critical habitat for the reed warbler and most likely require a biological assessment of the area. And that option would also require extensive land clearing and grading due to its uneven terrain. So to date, we are working with the Public Assistance Office to get A&E services for the design of the Hopwood campus. PSS, we are doing our scoping right now, which is meeting with the school administrator to determine what is the plan for Hopwood. With the $25 million that was obligated by FEMA as a 4 to 8 project, what would be our priority one, priority two, priority three, and so on. So with that, we are hoping to get the team, get the A&E firm, so we can push forward with the design. And then once we hit the 60% design for Hopwood, that's when we can submit it into FEMA for their EHP review, environmental and historic preservation review, which then would give comments to PSS and our design team to let us know, if any, what type of mitigation would need to take place in order to meet the requirements for FEMA to rebuild on that property. So that's Hopwood. Any question for Hopwood?
Is $25 million enough?
With 25 million, so that's why we're doing the scoping. We're hoping that with 25 million we can get at least enough so that Hopwood does not have to be in double session anymore. So it's definitely to replace all classrooms. Hopwood is still in need of 24 more classrooms, which is building A, building B, building C, and portions of building D rebuilt. So right now with construction cost and material, new construction, we're estimating about anywhere from $250 to $350 per square foot. And there's a lot of square footage for that campus. So we're hoping that we're going to be within budget to rebuild Hopwood. And that's why we're hoping to work closely with the A&E team, because they can give us a better figure on cost.
Thank you.
If no questions for output, I can move on to other projects.
Members, any other questions about HUBUD? Okay.
Okay, so real quick for FEMA 428 projects, and the 428 projects are more flexible with regards to the funding and how we could use it. So PSS has 8 428 projects. WSR cafeteria, WSR building C, PSS wide school contents, Cagman Elementary, FMS building C, Dowk Academy, Marianas High School T building, and of course Hopwood Junior High School. So with WSR cafeteria, we are at the 90% design. So we just gave comments to our A&E firm, and the plans have been submitted to FEMA for their review. So we're hoping we can get that back approved and ready to go so we can bid out that project. WSR Building C, we're still in the A&E phase. Cagman Elementary School, we are in the A&E phase, but we're close to getting that as well to bid out. Francisco Middle School Sablan, we're just at the conceptual stage. We are hoping to get an A&E firm assigned to this so that we can begin the design. Likewise with Dowk Academy. And then for the Marianas High School Building T, we did submit the pre-final demolition plan to FEMA. We're just awaiting their response. And once we get a response back with a green light, we're going to go ahead and do the demolition of MHS Building T. And of course, Hopwood, I just gave you that. And then under our FEMA PWs, we have.
Wait, before you go on, can you expand a little more on Dowk? What is the plan for Dowk?
So for Dowk, the board approved the conceptual design. The location for the new Dowk will be between Southern High School and Coblerville Elementary School. There's that empty field right there. And the reason for that is because it's already a disturbed property. We don't have to worry about the reed wobbler because it's cleared. The elevation is pretty level. So very minimal work with regards to prep. And so it's going to be located at that area.
How is that one being funded?
It's FEMA 428.
FEMA. Oh, that's the 428, my bad. Wow, cool. That's a new one to me.
Yeah. So working on the design for that. And then PSS also has several PWs. We closed out GTC. We're in the process of closing out Chacha Ocean View Middle School project, Cagman Elementary School project, Dandan Middle School, and the rest of the projects are about to go out to bid. So a lot of work happening, and we're closing projects. Hopefully by next year we can say that we closed out all our PWs. For the CDBGDR, so the agreement with PSS is that CDBGDR will cover the 10% local match requirement for all our FEMA projects. So with this, they have taken 4 of our big projects, which is the Marianas High School, the Tinian Elementary School, the William S. Regis Elementary School, and Francisco Middle School Sablan. These PW projects were deobligated on the FEMA side, and CDBGDR took them as the matching requirement for all our FEMA projects. And with this, we have just recently signed the intergovernmental agreement. And so once CDBGDR is done with their assessment, hopefully we can go into design and bidding. And then for the CNP, Child Nutrition Program, we are building a new cafeteria at Garpan Elementary School. It's going to be located where the current cafeteria is. So we got funding from USDA to pretty much tear down the old caf and build a new one. And so many more projects.
Thank you for that update. Members, any questions about those projects? Go ahead.
Just a separate project. The Rota Gym, is that still under PSS?
The Rhoda gym is still under PSS, but there is an MOA with the mayor's office in Rhoda to use the property.
Okay, but as far as repair goes, would that be under the mayor?
I would need to go back and look at the memorandum of agreement with the mayor's office to answer that.
We do have a budget hearing scheduled for the 31st. If you can have an update by then.
Yes.
Thank you, Rep. Manglonia. Representative Yanktamai recognized.
I went through, oh, thank you, Chair. I went through this, a meeting on revitalization of Garapan. Will that affect the school there?
I
Is
am
there
not-
any plan for it to be moved or go up second floor or fifth floor or something?
I am not familiar with the Garpan revitalization project. Tim?
If I may,
Recognize.
as far as I am, we are, to our knowledge, the Garapan Elementary School property belongs to PSS. And for so long as we are here, it will remain as Garapan Elementary School. There's no plans to turning it over or any plans to move. I just wanted to share that with the committee. Over.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Yanktamai. What she brings up is a good point. It is important that all parties of the agencies that are making plans make sure that they include the schools in those conversations. I believe the gate that is there now, the beautiful gate, definitely will contribute to the beauty revitalization of the village, that's for sure. I think that's the kind of stuff they would talk to you guys about, but we'll let them do that. Other questions or other updates from the group? Go ahead, Commissioner. You had my list.
Yes, thank you. So now we move on to talk about the bus stop and all of PSS. So I yield to Mr. Margofnia. Him and I took a trip to around all the bus stop areas. I just want the committee to be aware that we are not, let me rephrase that. We designate areas for drop off and pickup, but we don't have the budget to build bus stops. And so this is where I will ask, it should be a community responsibility, all of us, in that case. Um, and right now, I know there's a Canatabla issue, but there's also Coblerville, where a lot of our um, families are asking if we can build more bus stops inside, or yeah, inside the housing of the Kobler estate. And that is where we at with bus stops. So, Mr. Magofnia, can you go ahead and elaborate if you may?
Uh, so yes, as the commissioner mentioned, PSS, our role with bus stops is really just to identify locations. But as far as building bus stops, because PSS, we don't own the properties, we really can't build on the property. And so with that, the business community and other nonprofit organizations have taken upon themselves to contribute by building bus stops along the designated bus stop locations. Now, for the Canatabla, I'm sure that's one. There is still that issue with the land over there. So in the past, sorry, I wasn't prepared to talk about this. So in the past, the bus was able to make it all the way up to that Japanese monument up at Canatabla. There's a bus stop area right there. But when the road construction began, the buses was no longer safe for the buses to go all the way up there. So they relocated it to right in front of the quarry. But then now that the construction is done, the road construction, I guess the residents want to bring it back. So after the road construction was completed, we went up, we did an assessment. They only paved one side of the road and the other side is not paved yet. So it's a maneuverability issue for our buses. And so because it's not still not safe for the buses to go up and safely maneuver because it's really a tight space. That's why we decided to keep it down at the quarry area. And we're hoping that if any business or nonprofit or anybody would like to adopt that bus stop, that hopefully they can build a bus stop there.
Thank you for the update. And so clearing the area is not an option then?
Clearing.
I guess you had mentioned in our email that if we cleared or had it cleared like 20-foot parameter around that bus stop, it would be usable, but not with the current situation.
It's just really narrow up there. There's
Yeah.
just no space for a bus to maneuver because these are the big buses.
How would it
And
reverse? Like it would reverse into that private property where the bus stop is located?
so there is in the past the owner of the property where the bus stop is located has allowed PSS to drive onto the property. And before it was paved, it was easier for drivers because before it was paved, cars were traveling slowly because nobody wanted to drive fast in that
Bumpy.
Pascal road. But now that it's paved, cars are speeding down that road. So it's just more challenging for the drivers because whenever they're reversing and the car's speeding down, it's too late for them to see it and they might hit the bus or the bus
Understood.
might hit them.
Thank you for elaborating. I hope that our Canatable constituents are watching to hear about the concerns that PSS has for safety, which is very valid. And the road construction, I don't believe it will be changed. That is how it is for now, I think, until some kind of things happen with landowners. So it looks like that we might have to move a bus stop.
Yes.
Thank you for talking about the NGOs that you welcome to work with. How has PSS promoted partnerships with private entities like the non-government organizations to support the programs for students in general, and maybe not just bus stops, but across the system? If anyone would like to answer that.
So PSS is really, especially this year, has been very collaborative, but not with for profit, also with non-profit. I'm going to yield to Dr. Bonnie Pangilinan, who has taken the lead on mental health. And mental health, as you probably know, is making its way throughout all the organizations. I mean, even the judicial branch has created their own emotional intelligent quotient program. So Dr. Bonnie can speak on behalf of how PSS has collaborated with CHC, especially during this COVID-19, especially turning to CHC and helping us make the decision for closure of school and opening of school. So, Dr. Bonnie, please.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Chairwoman, for that question. We have actually been very fortunate that, let me just take this off. We've actually been very fortunate that even before the pandemic and before the awarding of grants that made mental health possible within the school system, we did have very strong collaboration with CHCC, in particular with the GLS suicide prevention program with systems of care. And so we had built a partnership And I should mention Maternal Child Health Bureau as well. We've built a partnership that made it possible for CHCC to provide services in the schools and for us to get training before we could officially have a program on board. Now that we do have some grants for mental health services for students, that partnership is as strong as ever. And we are working on MOUs with other departments as well. The latest one is the Cagman Community Center, hoping to get an MOU signed with them so that we are able to augment services. We have mental health now within the school district on Saipan, Rhoda, and Tinian. There is a presence on Tinian and Rhoda, but we would like to not we would like to augment the services that have been here for many years, providing support to our community and to our students, and be an enhancement to that for parents and students who may not want to avail of services within the school, and then also to avail of the services in the school if they're reluctant to go to a mental health provider outside of the school campuses. So those partnerships are critically important to us, especially after the pandemic and especially after we've seen a rise in mental health referrals from schools, which means from school staff and personnel, school counselors, from parents, direct referrals, and from students themselves.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that very, very important update and collaboration. I know many families are very grateful for it, mine too. Any other questions? Sorry, Rep Yangtamai, I didn't recognize you when you had your hand up. Do you still have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I was gonna ask about the bus stop up at the road next to Tarosu, going up, and then intersection going up to Falipi. Did you guys designate a bus stop there? I was just wondering. Or someone just
To
made up
be
a bus stop?
honest, I can get back to you on that with our OPT bus director and to see if there is a bus stop designated in that area.
Thank you.
But I will definitely.
Okay, thank you.
To that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rep Yangtamai. I had a parent text me, and I just wondered because I thought that afterwards too. And I know Mr. McGuffney had to leave, but do you recall if he said how many years are we looking at before Hopwood is running back to normal? In all of those plans that he mentioned, do we have like a year's timeline? Do you remember?
It's really it's hard to predict or to say right now because there's so many unknowns. Right now, just to make that decision to move or to stay, it took a year and a half, I will say. And as you see, how slow progress. So, in my guesstimate time, so long I'm still commissioner, I'm going to make sure that we have a hub would be completed, or we'll turn to alternate ways of bringing classrooms or making classrooms available so that we can open full time. Right now, the students are only getting half day schedule. I don't have that time to answer the question. I don't have the definite answer, but I can get back to you in talking with FEMA. I'm also trying to reach out to. I'm already exploring the instead of waiting for our FEMA office to contact the US, I'm ready to skip that process and call them myself because I'm very concerned about our students that are still being shortchanged with instructional time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Go ahead.
Congressman, if I may, I just want to ask the committee that in moving forward, in moving forward, we're not there yet. We're still fixing or repairing all those things that we've experienced in the last 2 years with COVID. And the two main things that we are still working on and really pushing forward headstrong is addressing the learning loss of our students and also the social emotional piece, which is the mental health taking their role in the schools. But I would like to ask the committee that in the near future, I'm looking about June or perhaps in July this summer, if possible. There's a lot more that we want to educate you and give you an update on not just the social emotional piece, but also the infrastructure and our personnel and even our budget. And I know my plea is I like to have a larger audience of our lawmakers to be here so you can hear Dr. Dimapon plead about the immersion program. Today's discussion was an invite from the legislature, but what we want to do is we want to plan a legislative summit and we want to host so we can share with you all the great things that PSS has to offer for our community as well. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to open the floor and ask any of our key management if they would like to express anything, if that's possible, Chairwoman. Or did you? The last thing I have on our agenda is the graduation, which is I'm not sure. It's the season, and the graduation begins uh, this Friday for all the schools. It begins with Tinian, and then on Monday, there is a schedule that was passed out to everyone. So, are there any questions regarding graduation, no, Chairwoman?
You did give us, or you gave it to me, the stack of graduation dates. So I will pass that along to my colleagues for sure. But for everyone here, the first graduation will be on Tinian at 4 p.m. on Friday, May 13th. And then proceeding Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there's graduations every day after that. First at Marianas High School, then at Kegman High, then Daok, then Southern High, and then Tanapik Middle School on the Friday. And then Monday will be Rhoda High.
So, what
The
what used
23rd.
to be face to face or in person,
Yeah.
this is our first time to come back in person in 2 years that we've had graduation. It was all car drive through. Now car is it car great graduate car gay cardation
I didn't know it had a name.
car graduation drive through car through. So anyway, this year is the first time again in person, and I am inviting all of our leaders, community leaders, to come and attend and be a part of the celebration.
Thank you. Maybe before any other members would like to share, I know that you talked about learning gaps, and I know that a lot of the federal funding that was sent was to address these learning gaps. And so I wondered if you could share how PSS has addressed those gaps so far, what programs and strategies have been implemented, and what does the data say now about how its outcomes have been?
All right, I will yield to Mr. Tim Thornburg, our federal programs director.
Thank you.
Yeah, the American Rescue Plan provided a lot of funding to help us try to mitigate the lost instructional time. If you think back 4 years ago, we had Super Typhoon Sudalor, and many classrooms were destroyed. We were on double session for over a year. We finally got that fixed, and then Super Typhoon U2. And again, many classrooms, anything that had a tin roof was gone. And so we're still working on that. But as a result, obviously with Hopwood, it's on double session at the very best. But we really want to make other instructional time available. Summer school last year, very, very successful. We had over 3,000 students attending the summer session. There are online courses, there are after school programs. So we're trying to make as much time available and as many courses available to our students. And the idea is, we're not going to do this in a year. It's going to take 2 or 3 years with good weather, no typhoons, construction being completed in timely fashion, and then indeed we will be back to a more normal situation. But in the interim, we're going to be making as many instructional opportunities available to our students as possible through summer schools, after school programs, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. And so far from like last year's summer school, did you see a difference in the data?
Yeah, there was, we used the star reading and star math assessments, and they did show that there was considerable learning gains amongst the students who attended every day. If your attendance was spotty, the learning gain would not be as nearly as great as those students who were there every day.
As expected, yes. You mentioned how ARPA has really changed, the playing field, and all of us know that ARPA does have an end date. And so, with that in mind, what is PSS's plan to maintain like services or change them?
Okay, very good question. We've got 2 more years of ARPA funding, but after that, effective October 1, 2024, there's going to be no more stimulus money. But we can use our consolidated grant funding to support these, additional instructional times, be it through online or through a summer school or through after-school programs. Maybe not to the extent that we've been able to under ARPA, but there will still be those opportunities available.
So, taking what's currently there and reallocating it. So will that affect programs though? I mean, because when you're taking away from something, something has to go.
That's the really difficult part, and that's when I can assure you in another 2 years we'll be appealing to the legislature to help us with this, because we're looking at potentially, if we stay at level funding, and be very honest about this, a $20 million reduction in total funding, and that's big. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Chairwoman,
was, yes, sir.
just want to give a quick synopsis
Sure.
that right now we're operating at 40 million to operate all 20 schools. Our budget was at 25 million, but I believe we are being given 28 million. So in order for us to sustain all of our personnel after the ARPA fund leaves, we need a total of $40 million. So everyone is aware, and we're very transparent about that. And we just hope that we continue to support the public school system even after the cliff, because this is what it takes for us to operate right now. School is in its financially healthy in that sense, but we really need to. I just want to let the committee know that that's what it's going to take for us to continue.
I was looking at the last year's budget and this year, And maybe Mr. Thornburg, you can give us a little bit more history going back. But just looking at the breakdown for this year, it looks like federal funding will cover 73% of PSS. And last year it was at 69% with ARPA. And previously, about what has been the average local uh, budget, if you look at the whole pie, how much of that has been local versus federal in the previous years? Just looking at how these last 2 years, or the next year coming up and last year, were more than 50% of federal funding. What's the history been again?
Okay, if we go back to 2004, it was about 55% local, 45% federal. For the past, well, obviously the past 2 years, it's been closer to 75% federal and 25% local. But ideally, we would like to see it about 50-50 or even 60% local, 40% federal, because we kind of anticipate that these rounds of stimulus are coming to a halt, a very quick halt, and any change in either the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate could spell the end of stimulus funding, and we would go back to a situation where we're going to need at least 60% local and 40% federal.
In other states, it's more typically that kind of a formula too, correct?
Yeah, actually, if we look at the contiguous 48 states, it's about 15% federal, 85% state and local.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, question from Representative Mingonia.
Thank you, Chair. The question I have is in regards to pay. Last meeting we had with Secretary of Finance, and I know there's been back and forth with this, is that PSS did not submit a request to get premium pay for teachers or school staff or school personnel. If that's not the case, do you have any record showing that PSS did make the request and how much PSS was asking for? First question.
So I would like to address that, and we did submit a letter request to the governor for premium pay because we also are claiming that our teachers are frontline workers and that they should get a portion of that. But I have not received back from them. Perhaps I made an error in addressing that to the governor, and I should have addressed it to Secretary of Finance. But I was led to believe that it would get to him in that case. So there is, and we do have records.
Okay. Yeah, if that's something that you can pass on or include Secretary of Finance, we can certainly follow up. Unfortunately, well, we're supposed to have him up for the first budget hearing this Wednesday, but he had to reschedule. So this is something I can bring up on the next one. The second thing is there have been teachers that approached me in regards to their current pay as opposed to their pre-pandemic pay, and how their pay scale has not reverted back to pre-pandemic levels. Is that true? And if it is true, what is PSS? Is PSS going to do anything in trying to get that reverted back?
I'm going to yield to our HR because she also have information on this. Go ahead, Miss.
Okay, in response to that, the pre-pandemic rate, since the implementation of the addendum in 2019 for reduction 50% of the total increase from 2017. That has not been lifted or changed or approved yet. And as far as when will that take place, we don't have that information at the moment. But for now, we are still compensating our personnel with the reduction rate.
So is it because I was also told that all central staff were reverted back to, or at least administrative staff were reverted back to pre-pandemic level?
In response to that, the answer is no, not reverted back to pre-pandemic rate. Back in 2021, there was an approved scale that was just to correct the school administrator salary, but it didn't bring them back to pre-pandemic rate at all.
Are they also at that 50% off the raise?
They are at the new rate at which I could forward and share after this meeting. I'll share with you so you can see the difference between pre-pandemic and then the 2021 amendment.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing that. And the last or second to last thing that I want to bring up is at our last budget hearing last fiscal year, one of the recommendations that the committee made to PSS was to revisit I forgot the term, but it's the cost per student on the two islands as opposed to how much the cost per student is for the schools on Saipan. Has that ever been revisited?
Yeah, we've taken a serious look at that, and we've made an adjustment, for example, to the school-wide program and to allocations for operations funds and allocations for COVID supplies, where we've made an adjustment for the neighbor islands. The theory behind that being that most of their shopping is done here, and then there's a freight cost taking it to Tinian or Rota. Thank you.
So that is reflective in this budget, in this the upcoming fiscal year's budget.
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay, thank you. I believe that's all. But before I end my round, I just want to extend my appreciation to, from my understanding, Nick Gross and Student Support Services for their assistance with the students coming over to compete, having experienced the elementary to middle school, and the support that you extended out. It means a lot to the students and the parents because you see it on their faces. It's the first time they've competed in what seemed to be like forever, and so they were very excited. And huge congratulations to the ROTC team that took home several trophies, and so big congratulations to all those involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Manglonia. And thank you for all those great questions. All right, moving on. Is there any further things that you'd like to share, Commissioner Madat? And is there any further things that you'd like to share, Commissioner Madat?
I do have one of our senior director, Dr. Rizal Liwek's proxy today, Ms. Marian Tudela. She would like to speak briefly.
So just to piggyback on what Tim had said, that this school year was the first year pre-pandemic that with the in-person learning, that we've collected data. Last week, Friday, was the end of the testing window for Star Renaissance. So we should be able to have an analysis on the academic achievement report this summer. So we've begun to collect data again. Thank you.
Excellent.
So with that said, Congresswoman, will you be willing to attend and accept an invite and we'll have a legislative summit so that we can educate everyone regarding PSS A through Z, everything that we want to share with you.
I think that would be great. June is a bit full, so if I can recommend July.
July,
Yes.
perfect. Sounds good.
All right. With that said, I want to thank everybody from the PSS family for coming here today and sharing all of these really important updates. I know that you'll be back to see us at the end of the month with budget stuff, and so I will save all of my budget questions for then. But thank you for the little preview on that, Mr. Tim Thornburg. I hope you'll take that and go with it. And for the PSS commissioner, if you have anything else you'd like to say in closing, this is your time.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. And we are partners in educating the whole child. It takes a village to raise, and we are the village, and we are the leaders of these students, leaders of tomorrow. And so it's really each and every one of us is a responsibility to continue and to uphold what we need to do to make sure that they all get their education. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You guys may be excused, and we'll have a short recess to allow PSS out, and then we'll come back to finish up our agenda. And we are back. Thank you for coming back and joining us for the rest of this education meeting. We just finished with PSS updates. And in our old business, we are not going to act on any of the other bills. Only on the agenda right now is the Youth Congress bill. But I wasn't able to get information back from the speaker yet. She did reply that she is traveling. She's one of the cadets who was in the States representing the island of Tinian for the JROTC. But because of her travel, we were not able to connect yet for some of the questions that the committee asked from the last meeting. So I will keep that on the agenda for the next meeting. And I know it's not on our agenda, but the other two bills that we still have to complete are still on the agenda. So our next education meeting, we should be able to get those three bills done. I did get feedback from well, I did work on that other bill that we pulled out of the committee report last time. Sorry, Cam. But we did get really good input and we did work on that. And so I will bring that back at the next meeting. With that said, is there anybody else who wants to share miscellaneous? All right, Rep. Yang Tamai, go ahead.
There's no announcement, so I'll make an announcement in the miscellaneous. So there's a San Isidro Fiesta going on the 14th. The 14th, nothing happening in Rhode Island. So I'm inviting all of you. So, okay, so come down to Lally for 10 o'clock is the mass. Then afterward, it's music and dance and everything else. Jumping in the ocean. Okay, thank you.
All right, so Fiesta and Lally 4 on the 14th, right? All right. So I will just say out the graduation announcements again one more time. Tinian Junior, Senior High, and the middle school are graduating on the 13th Friday, which is this week. 9 a.m. for the junior high, 4 p.m. for the high school. On Monday, May 16th, we have FMS Middle School promoting at 9 a.m. and MHS graduating at 4 p.m. On Tuesday, May 17th, Cha-Cha Ocean View will be promoting at 9 a.m. at PIC. And Kagman High School will be graduating at 4 p.m. at AMP, American Memorial Park. Wednesday, May 18th, Dan Dan Middle School will be promoting at 9 a.m. at DMS. And Daok Academy will be graduating at 4 p.m. at their Koblerville campus. Thursday, May 19th, Hopwood Middle School promotion is at 9 a.m. at their campus. And Saipan Southern High School graduation is at 4 p.m. at their campus. On Friday, May 20th, Tanopik Middle School promotion is 9 a.m. at their campus. And Monday, May 23rd, Rhoda Junior High School is promoting at 9 a.m. and Rhoda Senior High School is graduating at 4 p.m. And that is all for education miscellaneous announcements. And next up, Representative Mangunia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the sorry, I am reading this. The budget hearing for Department of Finance on Wednesday will be rescheduled after getting word from one of the staff at the secretary's office that secretary is currently off island, and so try to pick a date of when would be best when he gets back. Additionally, NMTI in regards to education, NMTI is scheduled for May 17th, as well as NMC same day. NMTI will be in the morning at 10. NMC will be at 1. And then we have PSS. Yes. And then we have PSS on the 31st at 9 a.m. That is all. Thank you. Oh yeah. I was just mentioning the educational institutions, but for this week we have Department of Commerce on Thursday at 10 a.m. and then DPW in the afternoon at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, too. And with that, I don't have anything else on the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn? It was motioned and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. All those opposed can stay. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us. Have a great Monday. Yes, there is pizza. Please come and eat